Alrighty, so I've got my 7-inch cake and I'm going to cut it into 24 portions. So what we do, we take our cake, we take our chopping board, and we're going to get 24, we're going to do 4 slices, 5 slices, 6 slices, 5 slices, 4 slices. So that's 6, 16, 24. Now with my cutting guides, I always allow a little bit to cut off on the edges. It's just so you get a nice neat cake and it sits flat on the plate. You don't have to do this. You can keep those bits. They're completely edible. They're just what I like to do for presentation purposes. So what I'm going to do is just take off like just literally the smallest amount of cake. Right, so I've got my cake with flat sides. Now I need 5, I'm going across 5 times, so we're just going to mark it out to give me 5 even lines across. And by marking it before cutting it, you've all heard of measure twice, cut once. So that's sort of what we're doing here. We're just making a little mark on the cake to make sure, yes, we got 5 even lines, or even enough. Like it's probably a tiny bit narrower than that one, but even enough. Okay, so now we've got that. All is good. We're going to take our knife and we're going to cut down. We've got our lovely cake with our syrup inside, you can see. And I'm just going to pop it on the cake board. And we'll take this side too, just because they're both being cut the same. Okay. Now this is a tiramisu, so it's got coffee and chocolate everywhere. Okay, so then I also, like I've allowed to cut the edges flat, I also allow for these bits to be cut flat. Once again, you don't have to do it, but I like to, just so you get a nice even cake. So all I'm doing is taking off like that amount of cake. The good thing by doing this is you end up with basically the person who gets to cut gets to sample along the way if they want. You put it in a big bowl, people can have it, or once again, you don't have to cut those bits off, it'll still work with that. Okay, so I've got my, just leave that. Oops, trying not to chuck chocolate on the floor. Okay, so we've got our cake pieces, and now we need to get 4 out of these. So we're going to go down the center, and then, so in the center and the center again. So again on this side, we're going down the center, and then we're going down the center again. Pretend this is a cake platter. So there we go. We get our lovely coffee slices of cake. Now a coffee slice is considered 1 inch by 1 inch by 5 inch tall. So some of these are that and some of these are a little bit bigger. So same idea again. Just watch when you cut that you support the cake. This is quite cold, so it's separating. It shouldn't separate at room temperature, but if it does, you just want to make sure you hold all your pieces together. We've done our 4s and 4s this time because the cake's getting a little bit bigger towards the middle. We're able to get 5 slices out. So once again, just trimming the edge. And once again, you don't have to do this. Just something that makes it look nice on a platter. Okay, so we're going 5 this time. So if we go 1, 1, 1, doesn't quite work. So I like to actually, you can use this as a measurement. You're like, okay, I know what like a portion looks like, what an inch looks like. So you can take off that one and then you can just go and they are pretty similar. So we'll do that again. So I'll just take off that measurement, which is there. That's probably a tiny bit too big, but it works like that. Okay, so on to the last one. Now, one thing I will mention is I always put a little bit of buttercream or ganache under the cake to like glue it to the cake board. Basically, it stops it moving while the cake is being decorated. Also helps the cake not slide off during transport. So you can just see there, if I can work out my detail cam, yeah. So you can just see there a little bit. So if I try to pull this off right now, it might come off and tear. So just use your knife and hold the cake and just go under it a little bit. And then we get our cake off. You can see where the ganache was. Okay, so this one is the center of the cake. So it's the biggest, it's the longest piece of like the middle. So it's going to get 6 slices out of it. So once again, I'm just going to take off my edges. And once again, it's completely up to you. You don't have to do it, especially the edges in the middle are pretty flat. So you don't have to do that. And I'm going to go straight in the middle this time because we've got even numbers. And then I'm going to divide this section into 3s. You might notice it's a little bit narrower that way, but oops, it's, you're not supposed to wave cake, right? It's quite wide that way and narrow that way. So even though it's a slightly different shape to the others, you still get a good, good cake portions. So still get the same volume of cake is what I'm trying to say. Now, one thing, if you need more portions out of the cake, this is equivalent by weight to a cupcake. It doesn't look like on paper, or just 1 inch tall, like it's a tiny square. But when you take all the cake and the icing, you've definitely got a cupcake's worth there. If you'd like small pieces, or you're serving children, or you've had more guests show up and you're like, oh no, or you get all those, like the old ladies, like, oh, just have a sliver. That's totally fine. What we can do is, you have 3 layers of cake, 2 layers of filling. So I take my knife and cut, actually I'll get that out of the way. I take my knife, go right down the center, and you've got half portions of cake. So, okay. And this is a bit taller just because this particular cake has piping on top. Normally you wouldn't have as much buttercream on top, but it's because it's a dessert themed cake. With like a wedding cake or a standard celebration, you wouldn't have that. So yeah, I mean, so that does 24 generous pieces. You know, these are pretty good slices of cake. So you got your 24 slices of cake, but if anything happens, you need more pieces, or you have a few children, you can just cut some of them in half like this. So, I mean, that's still, I'd say that's a mini cupcake, possibly even bigger than a mini cupcake. Anyway, this is how you portion one of my cakes. It doesn't look that much, but when it's cut like this, you end up with a lot of cake pieces. So anyway, hope that was helpful. You can always let me know if you need more help with cutting out the cake pieces.